Welcome to the Tabletop Treehouse, our treasured RPG hideaway.
Hi, my name's Dennis.
I'm Chris.
And it's great to have you all here with us today.
So what door should we go through today? We got all these doors back here. 3 more of them.
3 more doors to pick from.
One's got a weird emoji on it.
Part of me wants to roll a die, but
we could do this grandfather clock one here.
Yeah, you know what? It has been running a little odd lately, so why don't we take a look at that and see what's going on with it?
Sounds good. Let's go through the door, and we will be right back. We will be back after a word from our fantasy sponsor, Goblin Lock.
Are you tired of security systems that are basically just polite requests? Let's face it, doors are just suggestions. Stop living in fear and start living in a fortress. Introducing Goblin Lock Home Security. Kings use guards, wizards use wards, but smart people use Goblin Lock. Why choose Goblin Lock? Enchanted durability, withstand rams, picks, and most low-level hexes. Sentient security. It doesn't just lock, it judges. Easy installation. Just stick it on and keep it well oiled. Don't wait for a break-in. Secure your hoard today. Goblin Lock. Keep the world out, keep the chaos in. Goblin Lock is not responsible for missing left shoes, unexplained cackling in the walls, or accidental transdimensional rifting. The user accepts all risks associated with Graz, Gomber, and Gilkin, developing moods, opinions, and/or a history of spite. Goblin Lock does not discriminate between burglars, in-laws, or delivery drivers. Any damage, destruction, or death caused by Goblin Lock is the sole responsibility of the owner of Goblin Lock. Goblin Lock. We don't just secure your home, we make it someone else's problem.
Whew.
Man.
Hey, Rico.
Yeah, thanks,
How's it
buddy.
going? Need a little help? Yeah, that's right, buddy.
Ooh.
That was a bit. So, our story for the day is about your character Jeeves from our Rapscallion game and Pooter, who I'm actually playing now. I'm the game master of that game, but we swapped game masters for a short little story arc, and I get to play Pooter now. But Pooter is the cook on the ship, one of the 2 cooks on the ship. We have a pretty big ship with like 100 crew members. So
yeah, quite the barge that we roam around the seas on.
Yeah, and there was a goat town. This game is weird. I think if you've listened to our game talk, you've heard about our Rapscallion game, which is Pirate Wasteland, like futuristic post-apocalyptic pirate wasteland with a lot of satire and anime influences and stuff.
Yeah, maybe some Fallout-esque things going on, basically, and all sorts of randomness.
But we're going to talk about pacing and cutting. I think that's what the story is kind of about, right?
Yes, yeah. We were in quite a situation. Jeeves and Pooter had been, ended up beneath the goat town exploring some catacombs or some tunnels.
I believe Pooter fell down the ladder and broke a leg.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what started it all off. Pooter didn't have the most the greatest sense of agility.
He like fell in a hole, like stepped in a hole that was like covered up. It wasn't Pooter's fault, people. Don't blame Pooter.
Pooter's got more to answer to than he thinks. No, it was a cool scene. Basically, Pooter fell down, and Jeeves is a somewhat gregarious individual in the game, and he wanted to go down and help him out, so he climbed down. But then getting down there couldn't just Jeeves is a small guy too, so he couldn't really just. Yeah,
Jeeves is a big dude. He's like 300 pounds.
Yeah. Wait, what? No,
yeah. Pooter's Jeeves is a small guy.
Yeah.
Pooter's a big dude. He's like 300 pounds, and Jeeves was going to try to carry him up the ladder. It wasn't really working.
Yeah, and I think already the ladder had some rungs broken and everything. It was a bad situation, but there was a path in the tunnels that we could walk down. And I was like, maybe we'll find another way out. So we start going down, and some twists and turns. We end up in a sort of underground temple-ish, grotto-y sort of thing. There were a bunch of statues.
Mm-hmm. Now, while that's going on, there is one of the goat people, Oriel the Nightbleed, who was with you, and you sent her back to town to go get help.
That's right.
From the other player characters.
Thank you. Yeah. From after I'd climbed down, or while I was climbing down, I sent the companion goat Oriel, the kind of Nightblade ninja type.
Yep.
Very effective. Maybe a little more than Pooter.
Much more than Pooter.
But sent them back to warn the rest of the party about what happened, hopefully to get some more assistance. And then, that was a cutaway essentially. As Pooter and I went traveling down the tunnels, I believe we cut back to the crew finding out that we were in the tunnels.
It was a cut back and forth, so I could try to keep everybody involved in the scene.
Yeah.
That's one of the tricks that you can use when it comes to pacing.
Yeah. But yeah, we end up,
There's a door. You open the door.
yeah. We come to this door in the underground tunnels, and it's some kind of progress. At least it's a new avenue to explore. So Pooter and I go through and open it. And
I ask you if you open the door. You guys go through, open the door. So then I cut back to the crew.
Right.
And I'm jumping back and forth. So as you guys are walking down the tunnel, I cut back to the crew in town. Ask them, like, with Oriel coming back, they're like, "Oh, we got to mount a rescue." So then they start going that way. Then I cut back to you. You find the door. You decide to go through the door. I cut back to the crew. That's when I had the crew get to the hole, descend it, and get up to the door, which was open. And that's when I cut back to them, but slightly in the past.
Right. A little, everybody's about to meet up, but here's what happened while they were traveling through the tunnel.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. One of those things that you see in television shows and books and whatnot.
Yeah.
Which you could tell me about you and Pooter and the gem.
Well, yeah. So there was there was this prismatic gem.
Yep.
I believe just in the room. No, the statues also had gems, but
there was a plinth in the middle and there's a prismatic gem on top of it.
That's right.
Pretty tall up too. Like you had to climb up there to get it.
And whether sensing it or just hoping it, Jeeves decided to use the gem on Pooter, hoping to heal him. And it did in a fashion.
It healed him by giving him fire powers and healing all his wounds. That actually is what happened.
He was badly burned, though.
That wasn't until later.
Oh, right.
He burned himself.
Oh, yeah. No, that's right.
By the way,
healing was fairly, yeah.
This game happened like 6 weeks ago or maybe 2 months ago.
Yeah. But yes, anywho. But yeah, so healed Pooter, and then from there, I believe, after I used the gem, the statues began to come to life.
Came out of the walls and came to life and went to go attack you. And that's when the rest of the party walked into the room.
Yes.
Because Jeeves had to climb up onto the plinth, get the gem, come down, figure out how it kind of worked, and then fix Pooter.
Yeah.
And there's I think there was a few more cut back and forth in between there to build the tension, because that's what I do that kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah, and it was quite effective.
So that's our story of what happened to Pooter and Jeeves, and that leads to this idea of pacing and how you can pace your game so that you are not focused on one character or one space for too long and let other people get bored and let the game kind of slow down. And that happens to all of us. Games slow down. But the question we're going to ask today is how can we help make it so that they don't slow down? How can we keep that pace up?
What are your options? What are your tools for, utilizing pacing and, making it so that the spotlight isn't, solely on one person or solely on one scene.
For too long.
Yes.
Yeah. So a little spotlight management, a little pacing stuff today. Let's talk about what pacing is. I'm going to read a definition off my magic iPad. Pacing is the energy with which the session ebbs and flows. The rise and fall of climaxes within scenes, which also build towards a larger arc or situation's endpoint. That is what I think pacing is. I've kind of cobbled that definition together from other definitions. So, what do you think was effective about that whole sequence that we just talked about? Or if you want, we can talk about the Delta Green game that we just played, which I did a lot of the same stuff.
That's true, yeah. Definitely came up in there as well. Well, yeah, I mean, ideally, once this is in your toolbox, it's something you're utilizing a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, with what was going on with me and Pooter and the Rapscallion crew, it was incredibly effective in that, it basically allowed for either some amount of exploration or action roll or investigation or something of that sort on either side of the table, like me and Pooter being one side and the rest of the crew being the other. To the point where it almost alternated. Like, you take a step forward, let's switch over to the other guys and see what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Do they actually come look for you, or are they like, they'll be fine?
They'll be fine.
No, they're going to come look for you. Okay, now they're on the road, so, okay, now you get to the door. Okay, now they're in the tunnel, and, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I think that aspect of, and like you said, you see it a lot in, it's a classic thing, I feel like, in novels. I remember reading the old Redwall books. I think every chapter was a new perspective.
If you read a Brandon Sanderson novel, especially towards the end of the Wheel of Time books, when big battle scenes are going on, he'll just cut between different characters after a 500 to 1,000 words or something like that, just moving from scene to scene within the larger scene that's going on.
Yeah, just give you a little page break and new perspective. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, the cool thing about role-playing games to me, the spotlight management thing, which is kind of what we're talking about here, it also helps with pace. Scene cuts create pace.
Right.
If you do it right. And the trick to doing it right is to find those moments of tension, those moments of release, those moments of a question is asked, and then you move to the other people, because then you're putting people that are watching or playing in a space of tension. And there's no necessarily resolution to that. So you're just building up until you get to your resolutions.
You're keeping everybody invested in the story, kind of regardless of how they're, of what direction they're coming at it from.
Mm-hmm.
You're keeping everybody playing.
Yeah, you are keeping everybody playing and keeping everybody entertained. A fun fact that I heard and that I looked into it to see if it felt right or accurate was, it was mentioned that a TV or a movie scene typically lasts between 3 and 5 minutes. A role-playing game scene typically lasts between 8 and 12.
Huh.
That is longer than what generally human beings are accustomed to. And this is not because in media, because if you're a role-playing game player, then you're okay with that because it's something that you're used to. But if you're ever watch an actual play and you're like, why do these scenes last so long? Why does it take 3 hours to play what would essentially be an hour and a half script? It's because of that, because we're improvising.
Right.
These things are not scripted out where you don't know what's going to happen. People are kind of making it up as they go and trying to figure things out. That's why the scenes end up being a little bit more protracted as we're moving our way through them. And that's not the combat stuff. The combat stuff has its own kind of lengthiness to it, especially in turn-based games like D&D. But me and Dennis, we play a lot of games that don't have that kind of stuff in it. We do play games that have that kind of stuff in it, but stuff that's just you are people in a scene with other people.
Yeah, and there's maybe combat type actions you can take, but it's not going to be a full on, all right, roll initiative,
Yeah, most of them are investigation type scenes or conversations trying to get somebody to do something for you, or trying to accomplish a goal to further your objectives.
Right.
Because downtime is a thing that we have in some of our games, and that is that, right? You are building a thing or you're trying to acquire a thing that might not be easily acquired.
Using pacing to kind of build that tension, to, keep players invested, to keep the game, rolling essentially.
Yep.
And taking cues, like you said, the idea of, 3 to 5 minutes. Yeah, that might be way too quick for at a table.
Yeah, it usually is. I actually try to get it down to that time limit for cutting back and forth at least, because that's fun to me.
Yeah. And if your table is, that quick and that invested in that, kind of on the ball, it can end up being really fun, especially if it's a real high tension scene.
Yeah. And there's some benefits to it too. You get people who, if they're not always good about being invested in what other people are doing, they're going to know that it's going to come back around to them at some point in the not too distant future.
Right.
If you build that kind of culture at your table, then people will be expecting the spotlight to come back to them rather rapidly. So you can train people up to do that stuff by being the game master who will spotlight switch and look for these moments of tension and release so that you can jump around. It's one of the benefits of having good spotlight management.
Yeah, absolutely.
We talked about spotlight switching. We talked about and how that can help with pacing. Let's talk about how to handle longer spotlights. That is on our list, because sometimes you do want to linger with people.
Yeah.
It's not always appropriate to be just jumping around. One of the tricks that I use, and then you can tell me one of the tricks that you use, is that I like to let other players at the table play NPCs and scenes.
Yeah, it's a great little, tool to have in your pocket, especially if your players, like doing that sort of thing.
Yep.
You don't want to throw it to a player who might be quieter or might be a little bit more reserved, or alternatively, give them that option, even if it maybe say, hey, this is a really quiet NPC, but have fun with it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's an incredible tool to use. Is it takes less pressure off of you as a DM, and if you trust your players to, you give them a few tags or a few ideas of what the character is supposed to be, and let them run with it, can make for a really fun table moment.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a major NPC in a scene. You're
not going to have your players play the big bad or anything, right?
Correct. For instance, I was having in the Scritches game that I ran that you can all listen to out there. I was playing one of the characters, and our friend Kevin, who he plays in our Rapscallion game, but you've also, if you've seen Scritches, you've seen him on there too, or heard him on there, I should say, was playing Sheldon, and I was having a conversation, and one of the other players jumped in as the waiter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, right.
We're playing a comedy game. It's a performance in a lot of ways. So we're also just running bits, right? We're doing gags. If your game is like that though, and you're playing a game that has that kind of stuff in it, it's not such a big deal for people to jump in those kind of moments, as long as you all trust each other and you're all having a good time, and that's what you've all agreed to.
Absolutely.
You can do it on the dramatic side too if you're okay with that. Especially if you start like giving people NPCs to play.
Yeah, and it's more of a returning character sort of thing.
Yeah, there are games that do that. I've never played Good Society. Good Society is a Regency drama game.
Yeah.
But you have like a main character that you play, and then you get assigned You can have NPCs that are also part of the Regency, but they're yours. Like, you played them when they pop up in scenes.
That's fun.
So that you can have everybody playing this kind of troop style game.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Now, it doesn't really always work great for D&D, and we don't really need to do it a lot of times in our D&D games, but it's a tool that you can utilize if you want to.
Yeah.
What else you got?
As you're playing out the scene, either very overtly or just in the play of the scene, have it tie into the larger story that all the players at the table are invested in.
Sure, I'm with you.
You know, expand that so that even if the players who aren't there, you know, doing these social roles or doing the actual conversation, it keeps them invested in how the story is progressing.
Sure.
You know, as long as you're revealing information, revealing clues if need be, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. I think you could also, if you're having a longer spotlighted scene with an individual player, you can just tell them, everybody else, if they want to go take a break.
Especially if it's a more private thing, if it's, you know, specifically a one-on-one and the other players maybe aren't going to know unless that player decides to reveal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's totally appropriate. Say, yeah, everyone go grab a slice, or, you know.
Yeah, take 5, go to the bathroom, grab a glass of water or a soda or whatever you all do at your table. And if you want, and stay and watch or be involved and be a participant or at least an audience member, but now would be a good time to go walk away.
Right. And to that point, you could also then, if it's appropriate to the scene, if you're maybe ending on this where you're close to your session end time.
Sure.
And, you know, you say, well, you know what? I'll text you later. We're going to do a little one-on-one over Zoom or something. And then everybody will get filled in when we come back next week.
Having all these technological tools is really useful in how we might want you play our games.
Yeah.
And of course, if your game is about just, we're going to play for these 2.5 hours that we're sitting around this table together, you don't have to do any of that.
Mm-hmm.
But they're tools at your disposal, which is the point.
Yeah. And I mean, it always comes back to just understanding your players,
understand
your table,
understand what your play culture is at your table,
yeah,
how you want your game to proceed forward. Let's talk about beat structure. I've kind of alluded to it a lot when I was talking about moments of tension and moments of release. So there's a great book out there called Hamlet's Hit Points by Robin D. Laws. It talks about beat structure, and there's only about 16 pages in it that are about the actual idea of beat structure. Then there's 3 movies in the book that are examples. So beat structure. These are the up and down beats in your game. If I ask a question, I raise a question in the game like, oh, this person's been murdered. That's a downbeat. If I answer the question or at least part of the question saying, oh, you found this clue that can lead you to the next moment of the investigation, that's an upbeat. If you're in a fight, a downbeat would be, I did not strike my opponent, or I got kicked in the groin, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel good.
I'm now, incapacitated, or I'm poisoned.
That's a downbeat. But then the upbeat is like, oh, I then turn around and finally got the one good hit on this guy, and now he is staggered.
Yeah.
That is an upbeat in a fight sequence. If you actually watch most movies, you can start seeing this stuff play out. You can see the upbeats and the downbeats. Watch an action sequence, watch any investigative scene, you'll see a series of upbeats and downbeats. And usually there's more downbeats than upbeats, because in fiction, there's usually more downbeats than upbeats. In role-playing games, it probably shouldn't be that way, because people like to succeed more often than not, at least in our traditional role-playing games.
Right.
Your D&Ds, your Daggerhearts, your
Draw Steel.
Thank you. But there's this nice technology that we have in role-playing games. Now, I know I call it technology, but that's kind of what it is, of the success with the complication. Because you're basically getting an upbeat and a downbeat at the same time. So you're kind of cheating the system of upbeats and downbeats, because the truth is you never really want to have more than 3 upbeats or 3 downbeats, especially of the same type in a row.
I feel like in some way success with a complication is kind of like the compliment sandwich.
Yeah, it is the compliment sandwich. Here, you can have a thing. I'm going to poop on you now.
Yeah.
Go sit in the corner, Timmy.
Oh, but you look really good.
You look really good. It's pretty much, yeah, that is a success with a complication.
Yeah.
My wife hates it. She's like, I just want to succeed if I roll really well.
Right. But you didn't roll well. You rolled middling, so you get a little bit of both.
Our Streets of Avalon game, I actually have it the other way, where if you succeed, you always just succeed. If you fail, the game master, or you miss, I should say, the game master has the choice of giving you the success with the complication instead of just a miss, which is nice because then they have a little bit more control over that beat structure, which I appreciate. That's okay, Rico. You wanna play with the doors? You can play with the background and the table. We got a puppy down here named Rico. He's great. This is our treehouse dog.
Keeps things safe for us, keeps us warm and happy.
I mean, he also keeps Keeley from stealing all the cookies all the time.
Yes.
Can't have Keeley stealing. Keeley, leave him alone. No cookies for you.
We'll get him on camera, full view here at some point here. But going back to beat structures, that idea of ups and down beats. I think you mentioned it the other day. You can literally have an up arrow and a down arrow for yourself.
Yep.
And just keep track of how your session is, how that scene is going, and just adjust it. If you pull the up arrow up and okay, well, we may have a downbeat at some point here in a little bit.
Yeah, especially if your up arrow's been up like 2 or 3 times in a row. Look, I know people like to succeed, but if you succeed every time, it gets kind of boring.
When you play a video game and you start using cheats, it's like, oh yeah, I'm great at everything in God mode, and oh, well, this isn't so much fun anymore.
Yeah, there is a level of challenge that is kind of required for a lot of this stuff just to make it feel good.
Yeah.
I mean, role-playing games in and of themselves are a lot of times improv exercises with game components that help guide storytelling. There is some amount of challenge to it, but honestly, a lot of that's just an illusion on top of what's going on, because game masters have way more power than anybody else if you're playing a traditional game like that. And all those other games that kind of try to thread the needle for game mastering or dividing up the game mastering power amongst the players is really just storytelling exercises with mechanics that can randomize things so that the game has its own voice and say in the storytelling.
Again, it's just a great tool to help you with that idea of pacing and keeping the tension alive and keeping everybody invested at the table.
Cool. What's the next thing we want to hit?
To kind of close it out, the idea of staying aware of the larger narrative and, helping use this guide leading it towards that conclusion of the scene, of the combat, of whatever it might be.
The arc. The campaign.
Yeah, I mean, it's usable from a micro to a macro level.
Absolutely is.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
These beat structures are so good for that kind of stuff, and this idea of pacing. And you can just watch it flow. There's it's like the tide of the ocean coming in and coming out. And that doesn't mean you should ramp it all the time either. I have this problem where sometimes I ramp things too much, too hard all the time. And I have been trying really hard to give those places for slower spots for people to enjoy, because that's part of pacing too.
Yeah. Yeah. Having those downbeats, those kind of either lulls before the storm or, kind of calmness after the battle of hey, we get a few days at least or weeks before getting thrown back into the meat grinder.
I mean, you can just ramp it if you're really trying to push them.
Yeah. And sometimes that's where the story is at, right?
Yeah.
It's, the demon lord is on the warpath, and if you take a rest, well, he wins.
That's true.
But when you have those opportunities within the story, within the arc, within the campaign, to use those pacing structures, it definitely behooves both the DM and the player, the GM and the player.
So I think a good way to help keep track of the ongoing campaign narratives and how you might want to flow your pacing around that is by keeping a good understanding of what's going on in your scenario or your campaign. What's going on is, if you have an adversary out there doing stuff, you know what they're doing. They actually have a reason to be doing the things that they're doing. They have a plan for the things that they're doing. And because they have a reason and a plan, or at least a goal that they can try to achieve, they can modify their plan as things move along.
Yeah, I mean, as much as players have agency, story and NPCs should have agency as well.
Which means the game master has agency to do these things.
Yes.
I think the best rule of thumb for me anyway is to make sure that I'm doing whatever I'm doing within the bounds of what is actually occurring in the narrative. Right.
Yeah.
If the players make it obvious that they've done something that would attract the attention of the enemy, then the enemy is aware of them and will take appropriate steps to deal with that situation.
If the world doesn't react to the player's actions, it can lead to a very unfulfilling or dull world.
Well, I mean, then it feels like it's programmed, right?
Yeah.
Like if nothing happens until the players touch a thing.
Right.
I mean, that's actually, there's probably nothing wrong with that kind of game if that's fun for people.
Yeah. I mean, if it's,
I think it's missing taking advantage of one of the strongest aspects that we have in role-playing games. Like, we have the ability to do that. Not every form of media or entertainment has the ability to do that.
No, I mean, to build a decision tree into a computer game,
it's hard.
It's
a lot of effort.
And it's still limiting, whereas at the table, it's limitless.
It is limited only by our imaginations and what we say is okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Limitless.
Yeah.
By the bounds that we put on it ourselves.
But yeah, that's essentially what we're, talking about here is keeping aware of, the activities that are going on outside of, the direct camera view of your players.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to just be the antagonists. It could be the NPCs too. Your friends could be doing things as far as like your friend NPCs could be doing things that are affecting the world too. I don't think there's anything wrong with that as long as the focus of the story still stays kind of on the characters.
Right.
Like, I think I said it to you guys once that you guys were the main characters, but you weren't the most powerful or most influential people in this city.
Yeah.
So like, you weren't going to make decisions for how the city decided to defend themselves. You could make suggestions, but probably more better off as a strike team because of where you functioned in that space.
Right. Yeah. We weren't the movers and shakers, more the...
You were just a bunch of adventurers.
Yeah.
Legitimately just a bunch of people that wanted to get an adventuring guild charter.
Right. Yeah.
I remember I had to be put the kibosh and everybody started trying to plan, and I was like, the people from the city council are looking at you all weird. They're like, what? Like, you guys ain't the most important people here. Like, you're important to the story and you're the main characters.
I got armor.
And I got these dice and I got a character sheet. Look, and it was still a great, I mean, the rest of that story was great. Once you're like, oh, we don't have this burden, then you went and did other things.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's part of it is like, there's some amount that, players feel like, oh, I'm the story. So I have to make sure this city is safe. I have to.
And you did.
Well, yeah. And like, we were still effective in that sense, but not in the way maybe we thought we were going to come in and.
You thought you were leadership. And
yeah.
You were the fist.
Yeah.
Yeah. You weren't the leaders. You were the fist.
Yeah. One of the fists. Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty much everything I got for pacing, spotlight management. You got anything else?
Well, just to tag on to that last bit, to be successful in doing these things, and I'm going to keep saying this probably in most, if not all of our episodes, just to beat it into my own head. Take notes as a GM. It helps.
It's
important.
As a GM.
If you don't, you're not going to be able to, know what your villain is doing because you didn't write down what happened.
Yep. It is a skill that is useful to learn, and it'll be different for every person. I actually had a friend who I game with, who is game mastering for us, ask me that question about like how to prep and things like that. I'm like, it'll be different for everybody. Yeah. You just got to find what works for you. Like, I am I rely on the people at my table who are taking copious notes because I have several that do.
Sarah's awesome.
And when it's not that, I'm just writing stuff down in index cards, although I'm trying to be better about our Rapscallion game because there was a better note taking going on there and then it kind of fell off and now it needs to be better again. So I'm trying to implement a new shtick, which is I just kind of like throw notes into my my Google Doc that I have up and then I can transfer it later. It's just bullet point stuff that I'm typing real quick, but it's hard for me sometimes because I am trying to
focus gets split.
Yeah, man. I'm
6 or 7 different ways.
Such a pace game master that sometimes gets lost.
Yeah, I mean, when you, as a game master, you're juggling, multiple things. So yeah, if you have somebody at your table that's, willing to take on that role of note taker, Or maybe you can pass it around, each session, somebody else, but if not, then it's one of the things that does ultimately fall to the GM.
Totally does.
And, you can get by if you got a good memory,
Mm-hmm.
but
I don't.
It helps if you got the record as well.
As soon as we get to like 50 NPCs, I'm just like, I don't remember.
Oh, yeah.
That's too much.
Jarvis.
But I don't even know. That could be a character from one of our games. I have no idea.
I was just pulling like that, yeah, I know. Or, honestly, what happens to me more often than not in my home game, somebody will pull out their sheet. They'll be looking through in a moment of tension or something. They'll be like, I want to use this brown mushroom.
And you have no idea what that brown mushroom was.
Oh, crap.
I'd be like, you eat the brown mushroom. It makes you feel tingly.
Yeah, right.
Two rounds later, you become enlarged.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it definitely allows for improv and fun, but it's always a moment of, I half remember giving that to you, and
what is it? Yeah, it was like scattered around. I gave somebody a dragon egg. Like,
yeah,
it'll hatch at some point,
right?
I don't know. I don't even know what it'll do, because it's Rapscallion. It's powered by the Apocalypse game. They don't have like super solid rules for what like magic items do. It's just what it is. But yeah, it's fun. Actually, we're going to talk about that next time when we talk about players making choices.
Oh yeah, it does kind of tie in, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Well, with that, thank you all so much for joining us in the Treehouse. We really appreciate it. If you would like to hang out with us and talk with us some more, we have a Discord. If you go to tabletoptreehouse.com, you can click on the link to that and it'll invite you to the Discord and you can talk to us then. There's also a Patreon now. If you're enjoying this show and you'd like some more content, we do a once a month episode called Game Talk. We'll talk about our games. And there's also a PDF about our fantasy sponsor advertisement ship. And that PDF has usually the story of whatever the fantasy ad is, and also some stats and things like that. This week, it's you saw earlier, it's Goblin Lock Security.
Gotta keep your place safe.
Yeah, that's right. And there are 3 mechano goblins inside there. I drew them. It was really fun to draw them.
Sweet Graz.
Sweet Graz. And there's the story that Dennis wrote about how Goblin Lock came to be. Really fun little story. So check that out. And it's nice and laid out in PDF form for you. There's also a Redbubble store if you want some merch like this Tabletop Treehouse t-shirt. Also, like Ragnar, you can get Ragnar on a shirt from last month if you want.
Yeah. The
goblins will eventually be on there on some merch. So the Mechano goblins, that'll be fun.
I got one coming in soon.
Yeah. We got him one, but it was too big. If you're not a very big person, what was the sizing?
It was like the heavyweight cotton or whatever.
Yeah, heavyweight 2X was gigantic.
They seem to run big.
It was big, so there you go. That's a thing to note. All right, well, that's it from us up here in the Treehouse. We will talk to you next week.
Safe trip down the ladder, folks.